Bua, an indigenous community in rural Ecuador, has seen extreme changes in recent years. Entire forests have been cut down, transforming a hunter-gatherer society into an agricultural one in a single generation. The influx of mestizo practices, in conflict with traditional habits, has resulted in the contamination of vital water sources. Only 50 years ago, rivers flowed abundantly throughout the Bua community. However, much has changed in one man's lifetime.
No eran contaminados, todo era selva por la ribera de los ríos, no como ahora. Sí. Ahora se va acabando como quiera, ya la naturaleza no es como antes.
Every day, community members bathe and wash their clothes in the river, which results in major soap, detergent, and bleach contamination. Ideally, people could purchase biodegradable soap to avoid contaminating the rivers. However, it is largely unavailable.
También a la larga sería una especie de aporte para un proyecto a nivel nacional en el gobierno en el cual se utilicen jabones biodegradables.
Garbage disposal poses another problem. Bua does not have any type of organized waste management system. Many families burn their trash in their yards, while others simply throw it out the back door. Few public areas have trash cans, and even when they are available, most garbage ends up scattered on the ground. Unfortunately, much of this litter ultimately winds up in the same rivers used for washing, bathing, and drinking. Thinking Beyond Borders students witnessed this pollution firsthand on a river cleanup walk. After hours of picking up trash, including soda bottles, dirty diapers, and pesticide containers, we asked where the collected garbage would go, and were dismayed to hear that it would probably end up right back in the river.
Pero a la larga es un trabajo muy importante porque principalmente radica en dar ejemplo a los áchilas de que no se debe botar basura a los ríos, que es un problema de contaminación también para los ríos.
Pesticide containers we found are a result of Bua's growth in agriculture in recent years, largely influenced by mestizo farming practices. As crops are often grown right up to the banks of the rivers, the harmful pesticides used easily seep into the water. While some families in Bua boil their water before drinking it, this fails to get rid of the chemical contamination, which may cause cancer and other illnesses. One possible solution is to plant 20 meters of rainforest between each farmer's crops and the riverbanks to prevent pesticide runoff and also to help restore the cherished rainforest that Bua has lost to agriculture.
Aquí en la comunidad estamos hablando, hasta ahorita estamos hablando con más de 2.800 hectáreas. Estos eran muchísimas puras selvas antes, pero ahora de esta comunidad, de esta extensión de terreno, ahorita estaremos contando con unos 70 o 80 hectáreas, más o menos.
The Yana Puma Foundation, a Quito-based NGO working with Thinking Beyond Borders, has initiated a mapping project of Bua. This will enable the community to identify exactly how much land belongs to each farmer. With this information, farmers can request a specific number of trees from the government in order to reforest their land. Although the local government provides money to those who implement reforestation, farming itself is much more profitable and therefore much more desired. In recent years, nearly every family in Bua has constructed a well in order to obtain clean drinking water. By using well water instead of river water for drinking and washing, community members avoid health risks caused by contaminated rivers and decrease the amount of soap and detergent going into the rivers. Unfortunately, the quality of water supplied by wells may be compromised by their proximity to waste facilities. Many people in Bua have septic tanks, but there is no system in place to empty them. After 2 or 3 years, the filled tanks are abandoned and new ones are installed, leaving the remaining waste to seep into the ground and eventually into nearby water sources. Eco-toilets, or dry compost toilets, can prevent contamination by eliminating water from the equation. The toilet separates the feces from the nitrogen-rich urine, which is then piped into the forest to serve as a natural fertilizer. The feces are stored in bins beneath the bathroom. Instead of flushing water as with a conventional toilet, the user drops dry material, usually ashes collected from the burning of trash, into the bin. Bacteria is neutralized as the material dries out. After sitting for 6 months, the feces can then be used as compost soil, breaking the cycle of contamination. With the success of 3 individual eco-toilets built in Bua, a pilot project has begun at the local school to attempt them on a larger scale. The current bathrooms, used by 250 students, sit next to the school's well, and the septic tank often overflows onto the soccer field. Although the new bathrooms will be highly beneficial in terms of health and sanitation, their building has been met with some difficulty because of the funding and labor needed to complete them, which is why the Yanapuma Foundation, which introduced the eco-toilets in Bua, is hoping to eventually prefabricate the bathrooms to ease the building process and facilitate broad distribution of the eco-toilets.
130 families in Bua with something like 800 families altogether in the sector. It's going to take us 10 years or something, one by one. So there's got to be a better way of doing it.
Prefabricated toilets will free the organization to focus on educating communities about water issues and how exactly the eco-toilets work. Many residents in Bua were not even aware of the harmful effects of water contamination, and even once the eco-toilets were in place, were reluctant to use them. Although educating community members has proven to be difficult, Bua's leaders recognize the importance of education in the long-term success of the project.
Hacemos constantemente a la gente socializar porque nunca, ni yo mismo, no conocíamos baño ecológico. Entonces, cuestión de socializar a la gente, poco a poco, y con paciencia. Y la gente sí, están de acuerdo y necesitan baño ecológico.
Sí. While the problems associated with clean water are numerous, we can find hope in the ideas there are to solve them. And yet ideas are not enough. To have an effect, someone must be responsible to implement them. But the question is who? Ideally, individual communities could identify a problem and then plan and execute a solution themselves. However, they do not always have the means to do this, particularly in developing nations. Local governments may be able to supply the money and manpower needed, if they have it, but small towns like Bua are often overlooked. Funding and/or volunteers can be provided by aid organizations, but the problem remains that they are in fact outsiders and do not always know what is best for individual communities. There seems to be no straightforward answer as to where the responsibility lies when it comes to development projects like those in Bua. But, as this small town has proved, success can be achieved through collaboration.
Para mí ha sido organizar, más organizar, porque si una comunidad organizada puede lograr muchos objetivos.
Sí.